Yeah, that's so interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if so one thing that I've recently been speaking to a couple people about is when one person has this desire to kind of go deeper and to maybe work through some wounding, and
Yeah.
the other partner is definitely open to it,
Hmm.
but maybe there's some resistance there. Do
Hmm.
you see that in your work, and how do you see
Oh yeah.
that? How do you see that? How to get through that kind of block, so to speak?
Okay, great. That's so common. I just talked to a woman yesterday about that. She called in. She's like, I really want my partner to come in, but he's pretty reluctant. But I know we have some opportunity to break through this pattern that we're in, and I'm all about it, but he's just pretty on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So common. So, what I would say, I mean, the short version is if they're at all willing to do this
Mm-hmm.
process with me will take care of that resistance. Like literally, I've racking my brain for all the sessions, and I can't think of a time where somebody came in with that resistance and wasn't over it by 20 minutes into this. And it like this approach literally just dissolves that. It just melts it. And everybody I know is just like, oh God, thank God we did this. It's that
Mm.
wonderful. Now, so that's sort of the short answer. And if you can't, like, this is what I told this woman. I'm like, if you can just get him into a session, you'll see it'll shift. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had that, I don't even know how many times now, and it does actually melt the resistance. And so
Yeah.
that's like, okay, if they're willing to do the practice or the process. But if they're not, and you're in a relationship over time where you have this devotion, commitment to evolution, you're reading these books and doing this work, and your partner's like kind of not fully engaged in that, well, that becomes a very personal a personal question, a koan of sorts, where I depending on the person, the relationship, and all that goes into it, you do your work to the best of your ability, because you can
Mm-hmm.
always point the arrows here and actually do work. And it's a
Mm.
very subtle thing that we get caught in. Like, if they would meet me there, then it would be better. If they,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a big kernel of truth in that. If at all possible, find somebody who's as devoted to the work as you are. 100%. Like,
Right.
I personally, I wouldn't be in a relationship with anybody who's not
Right.
willing to do it. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't. It's done. It's sort
Yeah.
of like a pillar of my existence.
Right.
But for a lot of people, it's not quite a pillar yet, and they're hoping and wanting, and also most likely they have some stuff going on that's part of the process. So I say, then do your own work, do your own therapy,
Right.
find a masterful coach or therapist or person who can help guide you into whatever's going on in you, so that you can know that you did everything you could to see if that relationship could get up to that level that
Right.
you really want. And invite that person with your heart, invite that person with your sincere, loving, kind of like, there's this surrendered, authentic bottom line invitation, which is different than a demand or a frustrated desire. When we come at another person with like, you should do this with me, or like, you need to do this with me, I need you, like, even nonviolent communication, I need you to go to couples therapy with me. If it's coming from a vibration of control or this certain kind of contracted agenda, then you're
Mm-hmm.
basically kind of creating more of what you're trying to get free from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so this person's healing could entail if you really work this thoroughly, and you're in a relationship like that, you work it thoroughly individually, you get to a place where you very healthy, very empowered, very clear in your own wholeness, can speak to this person like, hey, if we don't do this, I could see this not going further. Like,
Right.
I really need it. And I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
need this support, or I really feel like we need to go to this workshop, or I really feel like I need some shift in you if I'm going to be able to open here. But that comes from a
Mm-hmm.
really clear place, not a not an aggravated, contracted place that is continuing a cycle of frustration for both.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I can imagine that you do a lot of individual work as
Yeah.
well around the same topic. So I can imagine
Mhm.
that if someone's coming for a one-on-one session and they're doing their inner work, so to speak, and then, that's radiated out into the partnership,
Yeah.
partnership.
I like that partnership. It's ever unfolding partnership. It's always going to shift. That's actually the truth of it. But yeah,
That's the
if
truth.
one person is doing their work and they're doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
there is literally a magical transmission that will bring out whatever's optimal.
Yeah.
Once you've done that thoroughly, you'll either get that, oh wow, it is shifting and working. There is a transmission that happens below the conscious
Mm-hmm.
mind. It's quite beautiful and quite miraculous.
It is. I've seen it happen in my own relationship, and
Yeah.
it's always pretty
Yeah.
fascinating to just witness
It is.
and see, like, okay, this internal stuff is no joke. And
Exactly.
sometimes it can seem like we're just doing all this stuff, we're taking all these
Yeah.
workshops, we're reading all these books, and if we are with a partner who is definitely interested in these kinds of things and has at the core of them is wanting to continue their evolution and things like that, then I think that there's so much room for expansion, even if we're doing our own individual work.
Amen. Amen. If the person is at least somewhat kind, somewhat conscious, somewhat willing to communicate and be available to their connection with you, then it's quite amazing. Like when you really shift, when the alchemy is authentic and real, not just like I read a book and I'm like pretending, but like you actually did like a deep, kind of like something shifted and you're showing up in a new state of consciousness or new way of being and like you've actually shifted. It's like dumbfounding. Like, why are they being so cool now all of a sudden? Like, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's like we have magnets in us and
Mm-hmm.
we're in a kind of contorted state of being inside, like a wound is operating. As much as it might be our blind spot, we don't see it. All we see is, God damn it, why can't that person be different than they are? Like, why can't it be better? Why can't they shift? And there's always what I call a kernel of truth in that. It's actually kind of true. If they were doing it differently, it would be easier. But on the deeper level of how this whole thing works, we drew that into our life as an entry point into some deeper wholeness making alchemy that we're here to do. That is really important for us to do. And when we do it, shifts happen.
Yeah.
Relation shift. I love that.
That was like Freudian slip or whatever. I mean, I don't know where that came from, but
I love it. So anyway, it's a very personal and delicate dance, because it's not just like, we need to be careful, because I've seen people hear teachings like this and then they're pointing the arrows so deeply, and then they get this belief, if I just fix myself, then it'll all be great. And it's not like that. When you get into your wholeness, then you find out if it can get there. And if it can't, your wholeness will say, namaste, or, like, I am bowing out. As almost as much potential as here, this is not in alignment for me ultimately, or whatever. There's an authentic, healthy bottom line that will arise. Not like, okay, I just got to keep doing my work. Now, for most people in our world, you can push them all day long toward point the arrows in, do your own work, and you're going to hit this healthy middle place.
Right.
Now, I'm just putting a little disclaimer for those ultra conscious people who take a teaching like this and overdo it. Like, no, you do your work, but you discern, you use your intelligence and discernment on where and when you have what I call an authentic pillar. It's like a true bottom line. This has to shift or I can't be here. I'm not fighting for it. I'm not blaming you. I'm not shaming you. I'm no longer in this like sticky tar dance of frustration trying to make you different, but I'm from my wholeness, from my healthy, true, authentic being, telling you, if this doesn't shift, this isn't going to work for me. So that's okay, right, and good. That's part of a healthy relationship. That's part of a healthy being, is to be able to make choices from a place of just a kind of healthy wholeness, as opposed to a frustrated like attempt to get things to shift, which is based in the very thing that's trying to get it to shift, which just keeps it stuck. I often use this analogy of like the remember those like Chinese finger handcuffs, the fingers in? The more you pull this way, the more this person, the more you're just stuck. And that's a really good analogy, because energetically that's what it feels like. If you're doing the same old thing, as much as it makes sense to you, I deserve it, he should, but if the energy of it is coming from the old, then you're basically doing this. Now you can heal that, and that's the magic that goes, oh, now we're out here. And oftentimes it'll help uplift the whole thing. Sometimes this person just is not ready to meet you, and you say, thank you, you helped me do the work that I needed to do to move on as a different kind of being. Now the beautiful thing, if you do that work well, you have changed your magnet. And your magnet doesn't just work with this person, it works with the entire universe, the whole world.
Right.
So you're now humming as this magnet, and then it can't help but bring people into your life who are a match for who you've become, which is the beauty of this. Now,
and if you're not in a relationship, then it's like, if you're doing all of that as well, then it's setting the stage for actually deciding to anchor in a relationship that is more aligned than maybe your previous ones.
Amen. Like, if you do deep, true, good work, you are becoming a magnet for a true, deep, great person. How it works.